Good morning, everyone. Today we will discuss about discrete Fourier transform. Okay. In our last class, we were discussing about this discrete time Fourier transform and its inverse transform, inverse discrete time Fourier transform. So we have seen over here uh, for the processing of the this discrete time signals, we can use discrete time Fourier transform. Okay. However, when we go into the frequency domain, the frequency domain is not discrete. Okay, and this is one of the major problem, because if you want to process the signals in the digital systems, then this xn, which is in the form of discrete form, it can be processed. However, this as we get into the frequency domain, the signal becomes continuous in nature, and over there this integral system, it has to be implemented. Okay, so due to this reason, the frequency domain signals, from the frequency domain signal we cannot come back to the original discrete time signal. Okay, so this was one of the major problem. Okay, and due to this, there was a need to develop another transform, which is regarded as discrete Fourier transform, Okay, now what does it say? It says that for a signal xt, its Fourier transform x omega is neither periodic nor discrete. But for a sampled aperiodic signal x of nts, its Fourier transform x of omega s is periodic and continuous in frequency omega and not discrete. This is the important thing. Okay. So to do the processing in a computer, it is essential that the quantities involved be discrete. Okay, a sample time signal satisfies this requirement. Okay, however, its Fourier transform does not satisfy this criteria, hence its Fourier transform should be sampled. Okay, so here by the term Fourier transform we mean IDTFT, DTFT. Okay, and its inverse form. Okay, so this is what we were discussing in our last class, right? That the time domain signal, it is a sampled one, whereas the frequency does component, or the frequency domain signal, it is not a sampled one, and it should be sampled to be processed in a computer. Okay, or a processing system, as in here. So the sampling in the frequency domain is achieved by multiplying by an impulse train delta t omega, similar to the time domain sampling. Okay, previously we have already talked about how to do the sampling in the time domain. We have to use delta t to convert a signal xt to xn as components, right? So similar to that, if we are having any signal in the frequency domain, we have to implement the impulse train, or we have to develop an impulse train in the frequency domain, which will be getting multiplied with the frequency domain signal, so that we get sampled frequency components. Okay, the IFT of this impulse train is another impulse train delta t. Okay, delta t. Further, multiplication of delta t omega and x omega x gives x of k dot delta omega s, which is the discrete frequency signal components, okay, in the frequency domain. This results in a convolution of the sample time signal xnts and the impulse train delta t in the time, which results in the generation of xnts, which is periodic in time, okay, which is periodic in time. So we will be discussing it in detail, what is the mechanics, what is happening. Just get to this stuffs. So to recover the time sampled signal, the frequency sampling should avoid possible time domain aliasing. That means the signal length decides the frequency sampling rate, okay. Such a Fourier transform that involves sampling both in the time and the frequency is called discrete Fourier transform, okay. In a DFT, the periodicity is built in both time and frequency domains due to the sampling in the other domain. That means if you are considering the periodicity in t, the sampling in the frequency domain has induced the periodicity in t. Similarly, if you consider periodicity in omega, then that has been generated due to the sampling in the time domain, okay. So that is what it is saying, due to the sampling in the other domain, though the original signal may not be periodic in nature. Whether the signals are periodic or non-periodic, aperiodic, it doesn't matter. Since you are applying a you are sampling the signals, that results in the periodicity, okay. Now this is the chart which describes whatever we have discussed till now. This chart was taken from me from one of the Google sites long back. However, when I am trying to search the website, I am not able to find that website. If you find it, please share the website details so that I can give due credit to the website, okay. So in this case, what we are talking about two things. We are talking about time domain component and we are talking about frequency domain component, okay. Now let's see what we have discussed till now in the previous slides. In the previous slides, we said that we have a signal, say this is the signal component s of t, okay, and if I do Fourier transform, we get into the frequency domain signal and I get a component something like this. Now in DTFT, what we needed to sample the signal, original signal, right? Now this sampling was done by multiplying with an impulse train delta t, right? So when you multiply this thing, you get this signal component. This is a discrete time signal, okay. So again over here, if you do the Fourier transform, you get this Fourier transform, and if you see, you are getting some impulse responses which are periodic in nature, similar to the previous one. So if you will see over here, we have discussed over here the IFT of this impulse train delta t omega is another train delta t, and vice versa is also true. So we have employed this impulse train, and in the frequency domain also we get another impulse train, okay. Now if you look into the time domain, we have got a discrete time signal. discrete time signal. Okay. Now these discrete time signals can be processed using DTFT. Now when we have applied DTFT, you can see we have got a frequency in a domain component, but it is continuous in nature. It is continuous in nature, and if I apply again IDTFT, I will get back to the discrete time signal component. Okay. Now up to this we have previously understood in till our this DTFT this thing DTFT transform. We have seen that up to this it is clear to us. Now the main thing about DFT, it starts from here. Okay, it starts from here, from the D component. Now if you remember, we had discussed that when we are sampling the signal, what we had done, we had band limited the signal. We had band limited the signal. What does band limiting means? We have seen that continuous time signal, it contains frequency components starting from minus infinity to plus infinity, right? Continuous time signals, it has frequency components starting from minus infinity to plus infinity. Now when we want to digitize the signal, what happens? It gets periodic in nature, because over here if you see, it gets periodic in nature in the frequency component. And if you see, if you compare A and if you compare C, initially we were having only this component, right? Only this component. But now due to the convolution in the frequency domain with this impulse response, impulse train in the frequency domain, what has happened? We are now getting repetition in the frequency domain. Okay. Now when these frequency domain repetitions are there, if we do not band limit the original signal, there will be overlapping, say shown by this area, there will be overlapping at the higher and the lower frequency component. Okay, so this process is called, or this phenomena is called aliasing. This phenomena is called aliasing. Okay, so if we do not do the band limiting, then we will be getting aliasing, and once we get the aliasing, it distorts the signal information of the original signal. So we will not get back, or will not have a signal which contains all the characteristics of the original signal. So basically our original signal will become distorted. Okay, our original signal, it will become distorted. Now what happens now? To avoid the condition of aliasing, we have band limited the signal in the frequency domain. Okay, so for sampling in the time domain, we are putting a limit in the frequency domain. That means if you want to do any sampling in one of the domains, then in the other domain you have to do the limiting. Then in the other domain you have to do the limiting so that there is no aliasing. So that there is no aliasing. Okay. This is one of the major stuff. So now we have seen that we have got a frequency domain component in the which is continuous in nature when we apply discrete time Fourier transform. When we apply discrete time Fourier transform, but what we know, we will not be able to process this signal in the digital domain. So what is the stuff? What you want to do now? We want to do the sampling in the frequency domain. We want to do the sampling in the frequency domain, and how the sampling is done? I have already told you. We have to multiply the frequency component with delta train omega in the frequency domain. Now before going over here, before we can do over the sampling in the frequency domain, we have to time limit the signal. Just like over here, before sampling the original signal, we had already done the band limiting. Similarly, when we want to sample the signal in the frequency domain, we have to time limit the signal. Okay. So how to do that time limiting? You put a window, rectangular window, and multiply with the signal. So any signal within this time range minus t by 2 by t by 2, t may be selected as per your convenience. Okay. So you create a window, rectangular window, you multiply it. So you get a time limited signal. Time limited signal. Okay. You get time limited signal. Okay. And when you do the Fourier transform of the rectangular pulse or the rectangular window, you get a signal something like this, which is regarded as sinc function. This type of curve, it is regarded as sinc function. Okay. Now when you multiply the sampled signal with a rectangular signal, you get time limited signal over here. Okay, which is limited in time where the signal components are present in the range of minus t by 2 to plus t by 2. Outside this range there are no other signal components. Okay. Now again over here you have to apply DTFT and you get a x of omega. Okay, you get x of omega, right? Now we have to multiply this frequency component with the impulse train. Now if you do the inverse Fourier transform, you will find that you are having another delta t over here, right? And which is going on. Okay. Now when you get this, you are doing the convolution. Due to this convolution operation, what happens? If you see this signal component, it is present over here up to here, but due to the convolution with the impulse train, we are getting repetition in the time domain also. The repetition is there in the frequency domain also, because during the convolution stage we have multiplied the frequency components with the delta t omega. So we have got repetitions in step C, we have got repetitions in the frequency domain, and then we have sampled it, so the repetition will remain. Okay. Similarly, in the time domain, since at this stage, at E and F stage, we are convoluting the sample signal with delta t, hence we are getting a repetition in the time domain also. Okay. So if you see over there, in a DFT, the periodicity is built in both time and frequencies. The periodicity is built in both time and frequency due to the sampling in the other domain. Though the original signal may not be periodic, right? So I hope you have understood this whole process of DFT. So there are two phenomena called zero padding. Okay, so zero padding is nothing but addition of dummy samples is known as zero samples. Okay, so what it calls is that if you add zeros at the end of the signal, it will not change the value of the signal, but what it does, it adds dummy samples with a value of 0. Okay, so what it does, the zero padding increases the number of samples and may help in getting better idea of the frequency spectrum from its samples FR. Okay, this is an important stuff. We will discuss it later on, how it affects. Then zero padding does not improve accuracy or resolution. Okay, so this one also we will be discussing later on. I think this points, these are from the book Lathi. Okay, I've already in the introductory class I've given you the book names. So over there there is one book like Linear Signals and Systems by BP Lathi. Okay, so you can get into the text from there. Now we have seen the DTFT, and we have discussed that DTFT can be implemented using the summation in both frequency and the time domains, right? So this is the forward transform DFT. X of k equals to summation of n equals to 0 to n minus 1, x of n w kn by n. Okay, now this wn, it is basically wn e to the power minus j 2 pi by n, and the kn is basically multiplier of by kn. Okay, now if you go back to our previous sorry, no, it is not given here. So if you look over here, so this is our DFT. Okay, now in IDFT you can see similar thing. It for getting xn we have to multiply with 1 by capital N, where capital N is the number of samples. Okay, where capital N is number of samples, okay, and N, it varies from 0 to capital N minus 1, okay. So x of k, w minus of kn by n. So what is this one? Minus of kn, it is nothing but, if you look over here, it is a complex exponential, basically w kn by n conjugate. Since it is a complex exponential, it is basically w kn conjugate n, and it is equal to w of minus of kn by n. Now this factor w kn by n, it is regarded as Twiddle factor. It is regarded as Twiddle factor, and it plays an important role in the calculation of the DFT and IDFT components. Okay, so we have a Twiddle factor. Now this Twiddle factor is helpful in the calculation of DFT and IDFT. Okay. Now suppose here you are given with a signal which is having a length of capital N. Okay. So you have x0, x1, x2 and so on. You are having the signal component, right? Now what we have to do, basically, for getting into the frequency domain, we have to multiply the signal xn with the Twiddle factor wn. Okay. Now what is wn? This capital N is the number of signal components or number of samples present in a signal. Suppose if I give you a signal xn equals to 2, 0, then number of samples are 2. So I have to calculate W2Kn, this Twiddle factor matrix. Okay. Now how to calculate this Twiddle factor matrix? When we talk about this Twiddle factor matrix, when I say Wn, that means the Twiddle factor matrix, it will be having n by n components. Okay. So it is basically a matrix which will be having n by n components. Now one of the important thing over here to see is that in the first row and in the first column we are having Wn0, Wn0. Now what happens over here? In the generalized formula we have seen W of Kn by n, that means there is a multiplication of Kn and this is 0, right? Now if you look into this Twiddle factor equation, if Kn is 0, our whole of this component becomes 1, right? So all these components, all the components in the rows, first row and in the first column, it will be 1. Okay. Then if you see the first column, the second column, how it varies? W0, W1, W2, W3 and Wn minus 1. There is an increment by a factor of 1. Similarly, in the second row, you will be having the same thing. W0, W1, W2, W3, W4 and so on up to Wn minus 1. In the second column, it will be a multiplier of 2. W0, W2, W4, W6 to W2n minus 1. The same thing we will be getting in the third row. Similarly, if you go into the fourth row, it will be a multiplier of 3. W0, W3, W6, W9, W3 of n minus 1. Okay. Similarly, if you go to the last column, you will be getting Wn minus 1, W2 of n minus 1, W3 of n minus 1, and so on. Okay. So you have to keep this architecture in mind. So whatever you want to say, if you want to remember it in the column wise manner, that's fine. So you have to first populate this matrix. Okay. So W0, first column will be W0, then W0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like that. Then the second, the third column will be 0, 2, 4, 6, like this. Third will be 0, 3, the fourth column will be 0, 3, 6, 9. In this fashion, it will go till the n minus 1 column. Okay. Now, as I had previously told you, if you are in the frequency domain, in this domain, you can get back to the time domain by taking the conjugate of the total factor matrix and doing a similar operation over here. However, there is a scaling factor of 1 by n. There is a scaling factor of 1 by n over here. Okay. Now total factor. If you look into the total factor Wn, it is given by e to the power minus j2 pi n. Okay. Okay. So you can calculate it from here. Okay. Now this Wn, what it says, it lies on the unit circle in the complex plane from 0 to 2 pi angle, and it gets repeated for every cycle. Okay. If you remember this complex exponential, it is about j theta, what we can do, we can break it down into cos theta plus j sin theta, right? We can break this down into cos theta plus j sin theta. What is this? This is nothing but an equation of a circle. Okay. E to the power j theta equals to cos theta plus j sin theta. And what would be its modulus? Its modulus is under root of cos square theta plus sin square theta, which is equal to 1. That means this equation, it provides us a circle which is having a radius of 1. This is nothing but the radius. Now, since it is in the complex plane, so the circle would be in the complex plane. Okay, the circle would be in the complex plane. Now let us go back. Sorry. Let us look into this. What happens? What we are saying? We are saying that we are in a complex plane. Complex plane, this is the real component. this is the imaginary component. That means it is having a value of j and this is having a real component sigma. And in this, I will be having a circle like this. Okay. Now, the radius of this circle, it is 1. Okay. And if you try to see the angle is in this fashion. So this is 0 and again it goes on increasing and it reaches pi over here and again it increases and it comes to 2 pi over here. Okay. Now if you see this equation, it is Wn e to the power minus j 2 pi by n. Okay. Now what is the importance of this thing? If you look over here, we are having 2 pi by n. Okay, we are having 2 pi by n. Now that means 2 pi is 360 degree. Suppose I have n equals to 2. Okay, capital N is equal to 2. Suppose capital N is equal to 2. Now what this should be? So our 2 pi by n, it would be 180. So we will be having 2 points, one at 0. We will always start with 0. So we will be having 1 point here and another point at 180 degree. Are you getting my point? Now suppose I want to now make the twiddle factor W2. So how will I make it? First row is W20, 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 right? And this point will be W20, then it will be W10, right? W12. So our W2 would be W0, W02, W02, these are 1. Okay. So basically we are at this point. 0 is this point. Okay, this Kn value. This Kn value is this point. And K12, should we go counterclockwise from here? 0 to pi, or should we go in a clockwise manner? Anyone?
Clockwise.
Yeah. Why clockwise? Why clockwise? Why not anti-clockwise? This is because under normal circumstances, we are given, we start with 0 and we go anti-clockwise. But if you look into the equation, there is a negative term. This negative term gives us an indication that we have to go in the clockwise direction. Okay, that's why we have to go in the clockwise direction. So at W12 we get at minus of 1. Okay, we get at minus of 1, right? Now am I clear? Is everything
Yes, sir.
understood? Okay. Now, for 4-point total factor matrix, I'm just writing the NK values over here. Okay. Oh, sorry. W0. Then what you would have next is, what should be the next value?
2. Omega 2.
Omega.
W2 by 4.
So next is W4, W6.
W6.
Okay.
W3.
Then W0,
W3.
W3, W6,
W6.
W9.
W9.
So real, imaginary. Okay. Now, how many parts? 360 by 4, 90-degree apart. So we will be having 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Right? So we will be having 4 points. So over here, this is 0. The point is 1. The radius is 1, right? Or you can say 1, 0, basically. This is real component is 0, minus j, minus 1, 0, and this would be 0, j, right? However, when we talk about the positions, let me put up the positions in blue. 0, 1, 2, 3. We have to go up to 9. Okay. So in our previous slide, what we have said, where was it? Anyway, I'm not, yeah. So 0 to 2 pi angle, and it gets repeated for every cycle. So we are in the 0 to 2 pi scale, but it will get repeating itself. So where will be the 0? Where will be the 4? So 0, 1, 2, 3, we have got 4 points. Then the fourth will be the 0 because it is getting repeated. Okay, 0, 4, then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this W0 is 1. W4 would be again 1. W8, if there would have been W8, it would also have been 1. So from this, from looking into this chart, we can easily find out Wn and K for the matrix would be given by 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, then 1, 2, 3, 1 is minus j, 2 is 1, sorry, minus 1, and 3 is j. Then 2 is this one, so this is -1. 4 is 1. 6 is -1. Then W3 is j. 6 is -1. 9 is -j. Okay. Am I clear how to calculate this thing? Anyone who has not understood?
Yes.
If you need any, I think because our future lectures will be totally based on how to do this, carry out the discrete Fourier transform and all these things. If anyone has any question, please ask me over here. No? Okay, good. Now, what about WNK6, 6.2 factor? Okay. I'm not writing 6 everywhere, so please write this down yourself. Okay. To save some time, I am not writing that. Oh, sorry. Four three is 12. Sorry, this is 12. This is 16. W5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay. Now, when I am talking about 6, 360 by 6, 60 degree apart. 1, 2, 3, because 60, 120 will be something over here, then 180. Similarly, you'll be getting 1 point over here and 1 point over here. So these two will be conjugate of each other. Okay. Now you see, you don't have to calculate each and every point, because if you see, this point is a conjugate of this point. Okay. Let me use another color so you will be better. So this point is conjugate of this one, and this point is conjugate of this point. Okay. So what is the coordinate of this point? The coordinate of this point is, real is 0.5 and complex is negative, so minus of j of 0.866. So what would be this one? This would be minus 0.5 minus j 0.866. This would be the conjugate of this one. So this is minus of 0.5 plus j 0.866. And over here we will be having 0.5 plus j of 0.866. Okay. Now let's put up the values. We have to find out up until 25, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 and 25, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 would be here, 23, 24, 25, and this would be 26, which is not required. Okay. So you have the coordinates now, coordinate points over here. You know this is 1, this point is 1, and this point is minus 1, right? So you have all the values, just you have to put those values in this matrix. Okay? Any doubt? Do you have any doubt?
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay then. So we have understood how to calculate total factor matrix. So your class assignment will be, you calculate WNK 8. Okay, and by today's end, by 5 p.m. you send the scanned copy of your whatever you have done to your TA. Okay, so by 5 p.m. I hope everyone is conversant with matrix multiplication.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone who is not conversant with the matrix multiplication, please go through the matrix multiplication these properties and how it is done. From tomorrow we will be working on this how to do numericals on the total factor matrices and how to get from time domain xn to xk and again from xk to xn. So basically we will be doing the DFT and IDFT. Okay. So yeah, and then we will be going into the fast Fourier transform. So if you do not have any other question, then we will stop over here today.